The multi-billion-dollar agrochemical industry has spent the last 70 years convincing you that your garden is a sterile hospital ward that requires constant, expensive medication. They want you trapped in an endless cycle of buying synthetic fertilizers, chemical fungicides, and toxic pesticides just to keep a simple tomato plant alive. But the truth is, the glossy plastic bottles lining the shelves of your local garden center are a modern scam designed to treat symptoms, not build resilience. Long before these chemical conglomerates existed, our ancestors cultivated massive, bulletproof harvests, using a unified fortress of defensive mechanics that cost absolutely nothing. Today, we are going to reconstruct that forgotten system using 5 pieces of literal household trash. We are going to build Frankenstein's medicine cabinet, a complete survival protocol for your garden that will render modern chemicals entirely obsolete. You're about to learn how to weaponize the scrap metal in your garage, the trimmings from your bathroom floor, and the wastewater from your kitchen to create an impenetrable biological shield. We will construct a system that cures rot, fixes nutrient lockouts, banishes subterranean pests, and forces an explosion of microbial life. But you must pay close attention, because hidden in the middle of this protocol is a trick from the 1930s involving a highly combustible, cheap household item that forces plants to fruit with such violent efficiency it feels like cheating nature. If you understand how these 5 elements work together, you will never buy another bottle of pesticide again. Let's begin with the foundation of your botanical fortress, the absolute eradication of disease. Before the invention of synthetic fungicides, pioneer families traveling across the American West faced a massive problem, keeping their milk and water from spoiling in the brutal heat. Their solution was brilliantly simple and entirely grounded in advanced chemistry that they didn't even fully understand yet. They dropped pure silver coins into their wooden barrels and glass jugs. Thousands of years earlier, the commanders of the Roman Empire did the exact same thing, storing their wine and water in silver vessels to prevent deadly bacterial growth during long military campaigns. They knew that something about this precious metal annihilated rot, preserved life, and purified the environment around it. We are going to take this ancient preservation tactic and bury it directly into your garden beds to stop blight and root rot dead in their tracks. But before you empty your pockets and bury spare change in your dirt, listen closely. If you make one fatal mistake right here, you will poison your entire harvest. Most modern coins produced after the mid-1960s are cheap clad metals, heavily composed of zinc, nickel, and copper. Burying a modern quarter will rapidly leach toxic levels of zinc into your soil, burning the roots and stunting your plant's growth instantly. You must use a coin minted from actual pure silver, like a pre-1964 US dime or quarter, or a scrap piece of pure silver jewelry. Once you have the real metal, the execution is simple but powerful. The secret lies in a scientifically documented phenomenon known as the oligodynamic effect. Heavy metals, specifically pure silver, naturally emit microscopic ions when exposed to moisture. When you bury a pure silver coin right at the base of a struggling fungus-infected plant, the moisture in the soil begins to oxidize the metal, releasing these silver ions directly into the root zone. These ions act like microscopic torpedoes, seeking out fungal spores, late blight pathogens, and destructive bacteria. They bind to the cell walls of the fungus, physically rupturing the pathogen and destroying its DNA without harming the beneficial biology of your plant. It is a slow-release, permanent antifungal shield that costs exactly whatever the coin is worth, and it will sit in your soil protecting your crops for generations. Now you have a sterile, fungus-free root zone and your plants are shielded from rot. But a clean root system means nothing if your plant is suffocating, its leaves turning a pale, sickly yellow while the veins remain starkly green. You are facing a severe nutrient lockout, and to fix it, we have to look to the blistering heat of a 19th century forge. Old-world blacksmiths were legendary for having the darkest, most vibrant green cabbage patches in their villages, and it wasn't because they had better soil. It was because they routinely dumped their quenching water, the water they used to cool glowing hot iron, directly onto their garden beds. They were unwittingly creating a highly bioavailable tonic that cured chlorosis overnight. When your plant's leaves turn yellow but the veins stay dark, it is screaming for iron, a condition called iron chlorosis. Most people run to the store and buy expensive chelated iron supplements. Instead, you are going to sweep up the rusty, useless nails from your garage floor to brew the blacksmith's tonic. But there is a catastrophic error you can make when selecting your metal. If you mistakenly grab galvanized nails, which are coated in a heavy layer of zinc to prevent rust, you will kill the plant faster than the chlorosis ever could. Pouring liquid zinc acetate onto your plants will cause immediate heavy metal toxicity, scorching the root hairs into oblivion. You must look for the dark, flaky orange rust and avoid anything shiny or silver-toned. Once you have genuinely old raw iron, you cannot just throw it into the dirt. Rust is iron oxide, which is completely locked up and insoluble. Plants cannot absorb it. To unlock the iron, take a handful of those deeply rusted nails, drop them into a glass mason jar, and submerge them in water with 2 tablespoons of raw apple cider vinegar. The acetic acid in the vinegar immediately goes to work on the iron oxide, stripping away the rust and converting it into iron acetate. Iron acetate is highly water-soluble and instantly bioavailable to your plants. After letting the mixture sit for 3 to 4 days, the liquid will turn a dark, murky amber. Dilute 1 cup of this tonic into a gallon of water and drench the soil around your yellowing plants. Within 48 hours, the roots will gorge on the unlocked iron, synthesizing massive amounts of chlorophyll and turning those sickly yellow leaves into a deep, aggressive emerald green. So your leaves are now breathing fire, heavily oxygenated, and perfectly green. But lush leaves don't feed your family. You need explosive flowering and massive fruit sets, and when the summer heat stalls your harvest, you need a radical intervention. For this, we look to the desperate agricultural tricks of the 1930s Dust Bowl. Farmers during the Great Depression couldn't afford commercial bone meal or rock phosphate, but they absolutely needed their pepper and tomato plants to fruit heavily before the early frosts arrived. To force a rapid, violent transition from leafy growth to heavy blooming, they used a cheap household item found in every kitchen, a simple box of strike-anywhere matches. But before I tell you how many to use, hear this warning. If you deploy this trick recklessly, you will chemically burn your garden to the ground. The fatal mistake here is placement. If you bury the match heads directly against the main taproot or the base of the stem, the sudden localized spike in acidity from the sulfur will destroy the primary vascular system of the plant. It will cause severe root shock, leading to total blossom drop, the exact opposite of what you want. To do this safely, you must bury a handful of unused matches head down, roughly 2 inches into the soil, exactly out at the drip line. The drip line is the invisible ring where the furthest leaves end, which is exactly where the microscopic feeder roots are actively searching for nutrients. The mechanism behind this is pure, concentrated plant alchemy. The head of a match is packed with 2 elements that fruiting plants desperately crave: red phosphorus and sulfur. Phosphorus is the biological trigger for blossom production and root expansion, while sulfur is crucial for enzyme development and flavor profile in fruits. As the soil moisture dissolves the match heads, the sulfur creates a tiny, localized drop in soil pH. This acidic microzone acts as a chemical key, instantly unlocking the heavy dose of phosphorus and feeding it directly into the root tips. The plant registers this sudden, intense spike of available phosphorus as a biological command to reproduce. It will aggressively stop focusing on green leafy growth and immediately push out an abundance of flower clusters. You are essentially setting off a slow-motion underground nutritional explosion that results in heavy, early harvest without spending $20 on synthetic bloom boosters. Now you have massive fruits forming on the vines, the plant is thriving, and the leaves are deeply green. But a silent, invisible army is tunneling beneath your feet, ready to sever the roots and drag your harvest into the darkness. Moles, voles, and subterranean rodents don't care about your phosphorus levels. To build an impenetrable shield against them, we have to borrow a slightly unsettling but genius technique from the head gardeners of Victorian-era English manors. These master horticulturalists would routinely send an apprentice to the estate's barbershop to sweep up the floors, returning with sacks full of human hair to bury in the prized vegetable plots. But before you head to the local salon, know that you will completely sabotage this biological defense if you make one critical oversight. The hair you use must be completely natural and unchemicalized. If you sweep up hair that has been heavily bleached, dyed, or treated with synthetic perms and chemical relaxers, you are burying a toxic waste dump. Those harsh chemical residues will leach into the soil, killing off the delicate soil microbes that are supposed to break the hair down, and potentially poisoning your root crops. You must use untreated natural hair from your own household hairbrushes or clippers. Simply dig a shallow perimeter trench around your vulnerable root crops and lay down a thin barrier of this hair before covering it back up with dirt. This Victorian trick operates on 2 distinct, highly effective levels: psychological warfare and slow-release biology. First, Unwashed human hair carries the concentrated scent of a predatory mammal. When moles and voles tunnel through the soil and encounter human hair, their survival instincts trigger a panic response. They perceive the scent as an active, hunting predator digging into their territory, causing them to immediately abandon the area and bypass your garden entirely. The secondary benefit is where the real magic happens. Hair is composed almost entirely of keratin, a complex structural protein that is incredibly rich in nitrogen. Unlike synthetic fertilizers that wash away in the first heavy rain, keratin breaks down exceptionally slowly. As soil microbes digest the hair over the course of a year, they release a steady, continuous trickle of nitrogen right into the root zone. It is a completely free, long-lasting fertilizer that doubles as an underground perimeter fence. The rodents have retreated, your roots are safe, and your plant is structurally perfect. But your soil is still just inert dirt unless you ignite the microscopic engine that powers this entire fortress. You can add all the iron and phosphorus in the world, but without billions of active microbes to process it, your garden is on life support. To jumpstart this underground economy, we turn to the indigenous farming practices and Depression-era kitchen wisdom of starch fermentation. We are going to brew a biological catalyst using the cloudy, discarded wastewater from boiling potatoes. But there is a devastating, instantaneous mistake you can make right in your kitchen before the water even cools. If you salt your potato water before or during the boiling process, as most people do for flavor, you must absolutely throw it away. Salt is a permanent biological destroyer. If you ferment salted potato water and pour it onto your garden, you are essentially salting the earth. The sodium will cause extreme osmotic stress, pulling all the moisture out of the plant's roots and instantly killing the microbial life you just tried to cultivate. It will turn your vibrant garden bed into a barren, saline wasteland. The water must be unsalted and entirely pure. Let that starchy, unsalted water cool to room temperature, pour it into a jar, cover it with a breathable cloth, and let it sit in a dark corner for 3 to 4 days. During this time, naturally occurring lactic acid bacteria and wild yeasts from the air will colonize the liquid. The carbohydrates from the potatoes act as a massive food source, causing the beneficial bacteria to multiply by the billions. You are effectively brewing a powerful, fermented compost tea right on your kitchen counter. When you take this fermented potato water, dilute it slightly, and drench your garden soil, you are pouring an army of hungry, active microbes directly into the root zone. These microbes go to work immediately, breaking down organic matter, unlocking previously inaccessible nutrients, and creating a symbiotic web with the plant's roots. They outcompete harmful pathogens for resources and massively improve the soil's structure, turning dead, compacted dirt into dark, spongy living soil that breathes and holds moisture perfectly. You have just engineered a self-sustaining, autonomous botanical fortress using nothing but household waste. You deployed the oligodynamic power of pure silver to crush fungal invasions. You chemically unlocked the iron from rusty garage nails to cure chlorosis and restore deep green foliage. You buried sulfur-rich matches to trigger a violent, explosive blooming cycle. You laid down a perimeter of human hair to terrify subterranean predators while slow-feeding your plants pure keratin. Finally, you ignited the entire biological engine with a fermented bacterial brew made from discarded potato water. You no longer need to rely on the chemical industry's expensive, toxic symptom treaters. You have the ancient knowledge to build the Frankenstein's medicine cabinet your garden actually needs. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these forgotten, zero-cost survival methods surprised you more? Reviving a dying, suffocating plant with rusty blacksmith nails and vinegar, or forcing massive, explosive harvests with a simple box of strike-anywhere matches? Let me know down in the comments.